the very practical sense of it, like as a tournament organizer, is that there's not enough transgender players to have their own event. I've always grown up playing video games. I started streaming and doing content creation about 7 years ago now. With Destiny was the first title I kind of worked with. I hopped around a bit when I went over to Mixer, which is kind of where I got to know Lady Desiree a little bit better, also through Guardian Con, which is now GCX, which is local to where I live. I'm in Florida as well. And after kind of going around to different games, I did Fortnite for a while, I did Apex Legends for a while, I went back to Destiny. But then when Halo Infinite was launching in 2021, almost exactly 2 years ago, I tried out the beta. Then they just had a couple of multiplayer maps, and it was just it kind of felt good. It felt good to play Halo again. I had played Halo Reach way back in the day, like before I started content creation, but I've never really streamed or made any content around Halo. But I had been running community tournaments, or I would do like shows where I would bring in a content creator and I would cast their gameplay and interview them. I did that a lot with Fortnite and Apex. And so I had organized also just more like tournaments. And I had casted them myself as kind of just being the one person show, doing, the marketing, the rule set, building out Discords, registration, hosting the show, and then I would cast gameplay with all of that. So then when Halo Infinite was coming out, I was like, I really should, I should get back to casting. I wonder if I should try to get into Halo Infinite as a caster. And I literally just kind of said that like off the cuff on stream one day. And one of the viewers in my stream was like, well, I work with a Halo league. And if you want to come and try out casting, come on over. So, fast forward like a month and I was volunteer casting my first Halo tournament in December.
This is
right
Halo
after the
Infinite?
game. Yeah, right after the game had officially launched. So it'd be December of 2021.
Okay, so my first thought was like Halo, right? Halo hasn't done enough for me personally to bring me back in. What is it about Halo that brought you back in?
Well, for me, doing things like Destiny or Fortnite or any battle royale, there's like a very large like RNG factor. Or for me in Destiny, it's all about grinding for certain weapons. And Destiny doesn't really have a esports scene, as it were. I had actually done paid casts in Destiny that were just run as like a third party putting together an event through the custom browser. There's not really a setup for any sort of competitive multiplayer when it comes to Destiny. So Halo, obviously being much more rooted in esports and also like removing that random factor, that RNG factor, it just felt really, I want to say fresh, which is funny because it's such an older, like, iconic title, but to me it was refreshing, kind of getting into it, having never really invested in content or casting with the title before. It's just made for esports or for tournaments more than any other title I'd worked with.
Okay, so you get back into Halo and you start casting it, and do you start making a name for yourself?
Yeah, so I kind of slowly built up. There still is a Halo women's Discord community. So I, hopped in there. I introduced myself as a caster, which kind of piqued people's interest because there weren't very many women casters in Halo, like at all. And then I ended up casting a women's tournament in January of 2022. And the producer I worked with is LVT, was the producer of that tournament. And he even said before the tournament started, hey, if this goes well, we're always looking for more casters over on my Halo channel, which I didn't even know of. Like, I was still kind of learning how things worked in the Halo community. But outside of HCS, which is the Halo Championship Series, like the game titles esports org, LVT was like the next largest Halo coverage, including HCS events. So they invited me over there. I started casting with LVT. And then fast forward to like this season, I was attending the HCS events. They would give us with LVT Halo backstage access, and we would do basically supplementary coverage of the main tournaments. So it'd be the same, pro players and pro teams, but we would doing like we would cover matches that like the main broadcast wasn't covering, for example.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of where things just kind of slowly like built up to. I hired a casting coach for several months. We worked together about once a week to kind of fine tune and improve. I had a duo I locked in with. We would practice and get reps together to improve our broadcasting, our casting as a duo. And so we just put literally thousands of hours into trying to be the best Halo caster that I could be.
So you get into casting. You've joined this women's Halo Discord. About how many members is in this Discord that you're a part of?
That's a good question. I know it's in the hundreds, but I couldn't tell you really off the top of my head. I would look it up, but they removed me from the Discord because of things that happened 6 weeks ago.
Right.
Yes. So apparently I'm no longer included in the Women of Halo Discord, but I think it's in like the mid hundreds of members. If I had to pick a number, I'd say like 400, but I don't actually know. Okay,
so let's get into what happened about 6 weeks ago.
Sure.
You post this Twitter post here. This goes up, and I'll let you read this in your own voice as opposed to me reading it.
Sure. This is September 12th, so just over a month ago. I'm building out channels in my Discord for the ladies' scrims on Saturday. I love and value all people, and as a Christian, I believe God created people in his image as male and female, Genesis 5:1 and 2. Therefore, I will not be allowing trans players to participate. And that was in reference to earlier that week, I had announced I was hosting Halo scrims for women on Saturday. So this was kind of a follow-up post to that announcement.
Okay, so you go in, you say you're going to allow women to, you just want no trans people, just biological women. I guess
Yeah.
we have to use the term biological now. I don't know. And then what happens? What is the result 10 minutes after you post this, an hour after you post this, a day after you post this?
Could you pull it up again, Craig, if you don't
Sure.
mind? I'm trying to remember the timestamp of it because I think it was in the evening, but I don't know if it even shows the timestamp anymore. It was probably maybe 9 or 10 p.m. or something.
Over September 12th, it'll tell you the time.
Oh, thank you. I'm learning something.
9:18,
I'm really trying to remember. Okay. So I knew I posted it in the evening. But prior to posting this tweet, like I know the Women of Halo community fairly well from doing multiple tournaments and events, et cetera, et cetera. Not exclusively. Like I also did HCS coverage, so it wasn't only women's events that I worked on. But I knew there were some transgender women who would normally participate, and moving this event into my own Discord, I didn't feel comfortable putting the Discord tag of like Halo woman or Lady Spartan, I think is what I was going to make it. I didn't feel comfortable putting that tag on someone that I did not consider a woman. That's really where, like, to me, the line was drawn. I was like, I can't bring people into my Discord and like label them as a woman or as a lady when I don't consider a transgender woman to be a woman. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the thinking behind making that post. If I could go back, would I reword it? Sure. Would I change my position? Absolutely not. But I might change how I had worded it, just from learning more. And I knew there would be some like people that would not be happy with that decision. I knew there'd be some backlash, but I had no idea that it would like blow up the internet. It went absolutely global. I think it has 4.5 million impressions or something at this point. But most of it happened the following day. So there was a little bit that happened that first evening, but I literally turned off my phone, like walked away, went to bed, and then had to deal with all of the backlash the following day. It was really when the storm kind of broke loose.
Was there an account that retweeted it or responded that kind of signal boosted it? Because that's what happens here is sometimes people will say something. You have 5,000 followers, right?
Sure.
You have 5,000 followers, and that's a good number of folks, but it's not enough to have 5 million impressions of a it needs to be signal boosted. Was there a singular account that quote tweeted it or retweeted it and said, "No, get him or get her."
I don't know that there was an account that retweeted it that really sent it out to the masses, but I was I was fairly well known within the Halo community. So it started there where people started to like, most of it was responses to the original post that ended up getting a lot of attention, as opposed to retweets. But again, it ended up that following day being so much that, like, Craig, I literally could not keep up with it. I could not physically read every comment or retweet. So it kind of went everywhere, but I think from my best knowledge, it started with replies to the thread. So it was like one of the most notable women in the Halo community commented, speaking like, how can you be against, and I quote, our sisters in this position? And then it was the community manager of Halo, Unishek, replied to it, kind of condemning that I wasn't being inclusive or this isn't what Halo is about, etc. So there was a lot of like the big names of the Halo community that replied. So there's a word I'm looking for. I can't think of it. Kind of condemning, I guess, that stance.
Or virtue signaling.
Sure. But we're basically very openly saying that you're wrong to have this position. This isn't what Halo is about. This isn't what gaming is about. And then from there, it was like, it kind of ended up being part of the whole like broader transgender argument. And I think that's when it really took off. So it started with the Halo community. And then at whatever point, I don't know, everyone on every side of the transgender discussion had something to say about it.
So I think a natural question, and I always like to be like really transparent when talking about this stuff. So like, what are your, like, I don't know if I can say this any more clear. Do you hate trans people?
No, I've
Right.
I've interacted with several transgender people, and I mean, I would go so far as to call them friends. Like, we gamed together, we had conversations together, and what, most of it was online just because that's where I interact with people mostly, but some of it was in person. Like back in December, there were several of us who had December birthdays, and we all got together and did like a Halo customs, game night or whatever, including one transgender friend of mine. Like, it wasn't a I'm against transgender people stance. It was, I don't view transgender women as women. That's literally it. So I still believe transgender people deserve kindness and compassion and common etiquette and all of that. I don't condone any attack or harassment towards transgender people whatsoever.
Right. So, but they felt by you not including them, that was an attack on them.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which is you hurt their feelings by not including them, and now they were upset. And so your notifications go off, right? And once just to recap, so you're saying publicly you don't hate trans people, you have no problem with trans people. All you're looking to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but it seems like you wanted a place for women, biological women, for a place to compete with other biological women, and that's it.
Yep. That's exactly right. It was in my mind, it was pretty simple, and I knew that people would be hurt or maybe offended, which wasn't like my objective behind it. Some people really did go far as to credit my whole career in Halo Infinite as some maniacal, diabolical scheme to build up to this point, and that I was like out to get them. And this whole time I was just playing along to build my platform so that I could take this position and like ruin everything or whatever. I don't know. There have been people that have said that this was the plan all along. And in my mind, it was much more simple than that. I want to run a women's event, and if it's in my Discord, it's not sponsored, it's run by myself, then I'm already, people talk about how I'm being non-inclusive. I'm already excluding all of men. So I'm just putting transgender women in the same category. So if you want to say I'm being exclusive to transgender women the same way I am to every male in the community.
So what if, and believe me, this is just a big what if you were to do a women's scrim, and then you were to do a men's scrim, and then you were to do a trans person, I guess you do a trans woman and a trans man scrim, or a trans man. I don't like. Do you think that that would have had a different effect had you announced that you're going to do a separate trans scrim, or do you think that it's at this point just the the toothpaste is out of the tube?
Well, I don't think it would make any impact now, if that's what you're asking. If it had made a difference at the time, the very practical sense of it, like as a tournament organizer, is that there's not enough transgender players to have their own event. I did go on later to clarify that transgender men who are born women would have been allowed to participate, but I literally don't know of any within the Halo community that are, biological women who identify as men, but I would have allowed them to play because I later made a clarifying tweet and kind of spelled out here's what my intention behind all of it was after it blew up. And I did use the phrase, biological women, because apparently that's, the terminology that people are going to actually understand.
But what do you think about this? Leave us a comment down below. We read every single one of them. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button because you have found your home for common sense in the gaming and entertainment worlds.